Melinda arrives at a petrol station at the beginning of the film. Walking next to a guy filling up his car, she gets out of her car to smoke. Melinda cautions the guy against smoking near petrol pumps, since she knows it might be dangerous. It seems like the guy doesn't care that there is a large no smoking sign in the backdrop. The way he smokes is the issue, she tells him, not smoking itself. Fed up, the guy screams at Melinda, telling her that he's not a moron and that he smokes a cigarette carefully. And with that, Melinda walks out of the Gap petrol station and away from him. Diane forgets to refill things and clean the toilets, so Sheila, the cashier, instructs her to do it herself. Melinda concurs, refilling as she swiftly puts on her work attire. Glancing over the snacks, she strikes up a conversation with a client, offering to refund his money if he doesn't like the pistachios and suggesting he try them. While cleaning the toilets later, she gives him her name, but the guy doesn't seem interested. A police officer who often visits the petrol station is seen in Melinda's covert images. Once inside, the guy becomes agitated and tells her that she is not allowed to use the men's room while she is. Sheila, in the meanwhile, is seeing a video of elegant women twerking. She pulls a practical joke on Melinda and records and uploads a video of her embarrassing twerk. The petrol station is visited at the same moment by an untrustworthy individual. Asking for Sheila at the register, an elderly guy called Fred enters. He notes that they spoke 2 days before, and he bought Sheila some cushioned insoles after she complained about her feet aching during their conversation. Sheila refuses to accept the present on Melinda's behalf, saying that Fred comes every night, and she doesn't want anything to happen between them. In an attempt to cheer him up, Melinda approaches Fred as he walks away, suspicious guy, telling him the insoles fit her well. Billy exits his automobile and conceals a handgun in the back of his jeans after arriving earlier. He asks Melinda if she knows anybody else who works at the business after she introduces herself. Afterwards, he requests some smokes. Melinda's stalker gets out as a police vehicle pulls up, and it seems like they know each other. Inside the business, Billy keeps a close eye on the police officer. When she sees him, Sheila asks if he needs any assistance. Sheila assists him in selecting some condoms outdoors after he has been seeking for them for 5 minutes. Officer Lou accepts Melinda's request to ride in his brand new squad vehicle. He says no, citing his packed schedule as the reason. She'll have to be taken in by him since she laughs about having herself jailed. He walks inside for a coffee and tells her he will give her a ride later. Officer Lou is working at the register as Billy makes his way to the lavatory. Sheila yells at Melinda to stop snapping photographs of him as she sees her playing with sex-enhancing drugs on the counter while the cop makes jokes about them. Melinda gives the police and her phone a miss. She is reassured by Lou that he has also dropped phones. He answers and departs right away. When Melinda takes unguarded pictures of people labeling her a creep, Sheila shames her for it. Crying a little, Melinda goes outside to have a smoke. When she comes back, Billy's gun is pointing at her. Declaring his intention to cause no harm, he gives her the command to stand behind Sheila. He says he needs the money because he is being sought after and is the target of threats. Telling him to hurry up with the heist, Sheila is fed up with chatting. There's less than $100 in the register since people don't pay with cash anymore, Sheila tells him. And he wants all the money from the registers and the safe room. Billy lets go of his rifle. Will the money be sufficient to settle the loan on his bike? Belinda inquires. Taking the money out of the safe, she makes the decision to support him. A few of patrons enter while she's wrapping the cash. Sheila tries not to get worked up and maintains her composure. In order to talk to Billy about the tension, Melinda glances in the mirror and undoes her top. As she is unable to offer the client change, she stands up. Behind the shelves, Billy keeps a watchful eye on everything. When the client asks for instructions, Sheila gives them to her and includes a note telling them to contact 911. However, Melinda shows up and crumples the paper before the client can read it. Asking for the bag, Billy approaches the counter. Reluctant to hand up the cash, Melinda inquires about her next steps. Billy doesn't really want to take her, but she wants to go with him. In the end, Billy takes the bag after they struggle violently over the money. Using a pistol to intimidate 2 ladies, Sheila calls him out on his cowardice. Billy becomes irrationally angry and pulls Sheila away from the counter. After giving Melinda her phone, he tells her to shut the doors. As they go to one of the back rooms, Melinda, looking dejected, comes to the front. She picks up a cup of hot coffee, pours it over her hand without flinching, and buttons her shirt back up. Billy gets knocked out with a fire extinguisher as he collapses as she goes to the back room and spills the coffee all over his face. Billy ends up murdering Sheila by accidentally pulling the gun. Billy awakens to find Sheila's corpse covered in a tarp by Melinda, who has also cleaned up. As he attempts to rise up, he finds that he is strapped to a chair, despite his insistence that he had no intention of harming anybody. With composure and silence, Melinda sits before him. Billy attempts to explain that the circumstances are absurd in response to her questioning why he didn't take her along. Unsure of her intentions, Melinda hasn't phoned the police yet. Urging her to untie him, he attempts to persuade her that they're a comp. They'd been on the same squad from the beginning, she says. Billy asks her if working at a gas station has made her miserable in life and attempts to persuade her that he didn't believe her at first. While Billy laments how much his face aches, Belinda starts to give a speech on the positive social effects of petrol stations. In the distance, we hear an irate client attempting to enter the petrol store while she takes some painkillers from the front. Later, when Melinda informs Billy she has a boyfriend, they talk about their intention to go out. He seemed taken aback by this. Billy quickly finds out that she has given him sexual enhancers rather as the painkillers he requested when she gives him more of them. Subsequently, Melinda discloses that she is aware of his deceit and that he refused to accompany her. Her attempt at rape is made while she has him blindfolded. After taking the money, Melinda leaves feeling lost. That person who had been pounding on the door earlier gets in at last, thanks to her. Without realizing it, Melinda points the pistol toward her head as he bemoans the absence of coffee, but she swiftly retracts her decision and sets it aside. Tears well up from her eyes and she orders him to go away. Her phone number is 911. Perry enters as Sheila's boyfriend. When he calls out for Sheila, Melinda replies that she's already gone. Attempting to dial Sheila's number, he hears the phone buzzing unexplainedly on the floor. Melinda tells Perry she left with a man and went to a hotel, but Perry knows she's lying. Perry tries to hide her trail, but for some reason she gets her trust and heads out to inspect the hotel. When a motorcycle gang approaches the petrol station, Melinda dashes outside to get a shovel. They mention Billy inquiring if he's been around and inquire about any events that occurred that evening. Is it unlawful for them to dispose of dead corpses, for example, as Melinda queries? She draws her revolver and threatens them when they refuse to leave. Their supervisor tells them to get down, pointing out that there are cameras all over the place, while they also pull their pistols. When they depart, he promises they'll return to search for their buddy if they can't locate him. In an attempt to remove the camera video, Melinda breaks the lock, but she is unsuccessful. Her plan to set the whole property on fire comes when she steps outside for a smoke. She returned them to the counter after adding fuel to 2 canisters. Since the keys are still in the ignition when she walks outside, the driver must be close. After learning that only Diane has the keys, he decides to give her a call while he's on the phone and wants to check the recordings. The revolver disappears inside Melinda's pocket. Melinda goes on to say that she did saw a dubious-looking guy in a green Jeep driving away from the police and toward the hotel. Lou wants to do a fast lap around the shop. Frustrated, Melinda almost bursts into tears. Checking every chamber in the rear, he discovers that everything is in working condition. Taken aback, Melinda conceals the revolver she had before leveled at him. He departs to check into the hotel after giving her his phone number. Once again, Melinda goes to inspect the rear room, but it's empty except for the cable ties she was using to secure it. After Billy, who is unconscious, makes the decision to carry out her plan to burn down the gas station, she is startled by odd thudding sounds coming from the rear and the abrupt loss of light. Right then, the door isn't functioning, so she can't escape via the front. Returning to the shop, Billy yells at Melinda. She tells him that there is gasoline on the floor and that it might catch fire and destroy the whole building. Perry arrives outside at that very time, having already departed earlier, and begins pounding on the front door, pleading to be let inside. Billy had already placed a trash in the way of Melinda's attempt to flee via the rear. Perry approaches Melinda, and Billy rushes to the front to alert him that she has gone insane and murdered Sheila. Billy murders Perry by tackling him from behind, leaving Melinda stunned and terrified. Billy then steals Perry's vehicle. Billy smashes the vehicle through the front entry before Melinda has a chance to speak to Officer Lou. Billy is too angry to listen to her apology and is seeking retribution instead. The pistol with gasoline on it catches fire as he attempts to shoot her. The gasoline-smeared floor catches fire as Billy drops the rifle. While fleeing the flames, Melinda manages to narrowly avoid burns on her legs. Officer Lou saves the day by helping her go to safety when the cops arrive. Flames eat through the fueling station swiftly. Subsequently, Melinda seems horrified as she sits in the rear of an ambulance, her legs bandaged. Telling her that it's all done, Lou stands next to her. "I'm appreciative of you seeing. Remember to subscribe as well. I'll see you in the following film."